We are building the Sports Heroes project from the YByte Python curriculum available at www.ybyte.in. In the previous video, we saw how we could get the French Open.csv and Wimbledon.csv in this Python REPL. Let's see how we can extract this into a usable Python data. In fact, we have done this before. For example, in the top terms project, we are going to do the same exact thing here. I will just write a function to, let's say, read this data into a list of dictionaries. And for that purpose, I'm going to use this module called CSV. So I just go and import CSV, and I just define a function called, let's say, read CSV data. And I just tell the, let's say, the tournament name as an argument, right? So tournament, say name over here. Now, all I need to do really is to, in case of Wimbledon, read Wimbledon.csv. In case of French Open, read French Open.csv. Hence, I create, let's say, file name, which is nothing but tournament name plus, let's say, .csv, because that's the name of the file. Having done this, I will read. I open this file for reading. So I just go and say with, let's say, with open, say file name, mode equals to R, because of course I'm opening this file for reading as, let's say, file. So having done this, I can use the CSV dict reader method, exactly the same as what we had done in the top terms game. So I just go and do this in, let's say, a couple of steps. So I just go and say CSV file is equal to, let's say, CSV dot, let's say, dict reader. In fact, it shows up here. And I can just give the file as an argument to this. So basically, this is going to read the entire file like a list of dictionaries, where the keys of the dictionary will be the top row, and then the subsequent rows will become all the values, just like we had seen in the top terms game. And I create a new variable here, let's say tournament data, and I do this, I obtain this by converting, let's say, the CSV file into a list. So CSV file, I convert this into a list, and having done this, I return, for example, the tournament data. So this is like, basically same thing as top terms, but except that now it's in a function. When I run, let's say, this piece of code, so say Python 3 minus I, say sports.py, notice this thing, the function is now ready for me. So I can create, for example, a list here, Wimbledon, say, for example, data. I can do this by just saying, well, read, say, CSV, read, let's say, CSV data, and I give Wimbledon as a string argument. When I do this, notice my Wimbledon, data is a list of dictionaries. In fact, I can find out what is the length of this. First, let's see the type of this so that we are sure it's a list. It is indeed a list. And if I look at, let's say, the first entry of this, just for the sake of reference, that is a dictionary. As I said, this is a list of dictionaries. The keys of this dictionary here have come from the top row as we had expected, and the values have also come from the different rows. That's why the first entry here is 1968 Australia Rod Laver. Now we can, having obtained this function, we can call this function once again to get, for example, the French Open data. So I just go and do the same thing here. Let's just call it, let's say, so we do this again. So here, so I can go and say, instead of Wimbledon, I can go and say, let's say, French Open, say French Open, and that will become my French Open data. Let's call it, let's say, French Open data. When I read this, again, the French Open data is a list of dictionaries. You can clearly see that all the items are dictionaries in exactly the same way. In fact, before moving forward, I will add these two lines to, to my program itself. So the function runs, and the data is also brought into a form that is then Python usable. So I just go and add, for example, here, Wimbledon, let's say, data is read, for example, CSV data, let's say Wimbledon, done. And one more line of this sort. So I just say Control C and Control V. French Open data is French Open data is nothing but read out, let's say, read CSV data of, say, French Open, right? So that is, yeah, that's all we need. So I just want to make sure that this file name is matching to the CSV file. Let us run this piece of code to make sure everything is okay. When I, let's say, run this, I can look at my Wimbledon data. That's a list of dictionaries. I can look at my French Open data, and that is again a list of dictionaries. Now we will continue with this, the subsequent analysis. But now that the data has come into the Python, let's say environment, we have all the Python functions available to us to, let's say, do the subsequent analysis. Clearly, this is a very, very unique way to learn Python. We are building projects where concepts are utilized, and that makes it interesting. Look at our website, www.ybyte.in, because that is how we learn Python programming. Take care. Thank you so much. Bye bye.